So as I told you, up to now, we saw the fact that what makes a person wise is knowing this reality about the nature of mind. Okay? But it's not that you just come to one class and you hear about reality of mind, you understand it all very accurately and you walk out. Right? So what keeps you from understanding this reality totally? So that means for anything, if I told you that if you wanted to study, let's say, what I said, E is equal to mc square, and you wanted to really understand all the intricacies, right? And if you have not even done the primary physics, will you be able to understand it? Some vague idea you may have, because if you just attend some basic talks, but you can't really understand all the intricacies and all the meanings of it accurately, right? So now what do you need to do? You learn the basics and you progress, and then till the time that you are ready, your mind is subtle enough to capture these ideas accurately, right? Without adding your own pictures, without adding your own meanings. So the typical example is when Vedanta does an inquiry that I am not the body, I am awareness, we think that we add our own story onto it and say, oh, so that means Vedanta is saying that I shouldn't care for the body. That is your own addition. I have not said it, but you take it. Like in one class when I was just talking about the nature of awareness, so she's saying, so you randomly are saying that this awareness is something which is going to survive after death and it goes from one body to the other. I said, did I say any of that? So that means I'm saying one thing, and what is she hearing? Some other picture that she has got from reading some other thing, and she's just into that picture and she's not even listened to what I'm saying. Right? Or you have listened to some hundreds of other things and then you feel, okay, this is one of the other inputs, so you try to reconcile everything and make one whole big, your own story about what Vedanta is saying. Trying to reconcile everything. All these habits will lead to vague understanding. Okay? Clarity means you need to really make sure that your ideas are not fraught with your own additions, your own flavors. But you have to be, that is what we call integrity in learning. Learning means it's vastutata. You need to understand things as they are. You can't add your things. Okay. Now that mind, in order to have that mind which is non-adding things, right? How will you have a mind like that when in your day-to-day interactions you're so used to adding your own stories to every little event that happens? You have only one mind that interacts with the world and listens to Vedanta. If mind is not able to just see simple things as they are, then and it projects many things onto different, in relationships, in situations, the relationship with different objects. It's not able to handle that little thing accurately. Then that mind, when it listens to Vedanta, it will freak out. It will create its own stories. Right? So now, the whole thing is, even though your limitlessness is an accomplished fact, it's already there, in order to know it accurately, without any vagueness, without any errors, as clearly and as lucidly as it is meant to be understood, you need to prepare your mind. How will you prepare your mind to be that subtle mind which is not projecting mind? By shedding all the the distortions of the mind, right? One of the sources of distortions we saw yesterday, right? When I act, I don't always take into consideration samanya dharma, swadharma. I don't grow to be the person who considers lokasangraha. When situations come, I'm not able to handle them accurately. Right? So these are all the distortions. True, these are all distortions. So Karma Yoga gave you one method to deal with your distortions. One very practical method. It just says, do what you have to do, but take into account all these things before you act. Over a period of time, you will make your mind more and more aligned to realities rather than operating from its own stories. Right? Now, that is one method. Vedanta goes on and talks about another area where we all need to grow a lot. And that is with reference to our emotions. Right? So now, the wise person has worked on one's emotions to be the person who can hold that big knowledge. So how has he worked on his emotions? It's in the next verse, which is verse 56. It says, Dukkeshu anudvigna manaha Sukheshu vigata spruhaha Vitarāgataya krodhaha Sthita Prajna. So in order to become that wise person, the person has dealt with many things. Sukha and Dukkha. Sukha means happiness and Dukkha means sadness. Right? Now, unfortunately, if you have not studied Vedanta with a qualified teacher, they will translate this verse as the wise person is above Sukha and Dukkha. It's not true. Please understand that. This above and all creates a huge problem. The person has learned to handle emotions. Right? One thing is, you must understand the mind is programmed in a way that you will have range of emotions. When somebody comes, like last 2 days, everybody is asking me, how is your mom? Everybody is asking me. Because they pick up. Somebody was saying that in yesterday's class, everybody picks up so many things which are non-verbal. How I'm looking, what are my facial expressions, everything is a giveaway. And people observe. Right? So that means people have the capacity to pick up the pain of somebody else. So that means, why do we pick up the pain of somebody else? Because we also experience our pain, and our mirror neurons say, okay, if I'm sad, I'm like this. If somebody else is sad, also I can empathize with that person. Right? So that means emotions nobody can avoid. Please understand. We are not talking, and the mind is programmed in a way that you have to feel emotions. You would be like a robot if you lost your capacity to feel emotions. Your life will become highly mechanical. So we are not talking about wise person becoming like a robot. Okay. What we are talking about is this, that is one part. If you look at neurosciences, there is one part of your mind which is what we call the instincts. The instincts is, you are given all range of instincts. Happiness, sadness, anger, all these are there. Self-protection, self-preservation, it's all part of your mind, which is programmed to have instincts. If you have not developed your mind, most of the time what happens, you act from that mind which is driven by instincts. What is this education that we are talking about, this special type of education which is not about a subject matter but it's about yourself? It gives you a different kind of inputs and understanding your position in scheme of things differently, in light of which you act not only from instincts. You can't eliminate instincts, please understand. But you also have other side of your brain which is called cortex and neocortex. It develops that part of the brain. So that means in your decision making, it's not only the instinct which governs your decision making and action, it is also what? Assessed through your reasoning, which is cortex, and neocortex is all the different subtle values that you learn in Vedanta or in any other class. So that means you are increasing the infrastructure of your brain without eliminating the centers of instincts. Because instincts are given, you can't eliminate. Any attempt to erase is going to lead to a lot of pressure, putting pressure on yourself. You will keep on saying, oh, I'm still sometimes feeling sad, so I'm not spiritual, I haven't grown. It's not about not feeling emotions, it's how you deal with those emotions which makes you a mature person or not. So you need to relax. Right? So this person has taken care of the sadness and has learned to deal with sadness. Elimination of sadness is not possible. I will give you an example how much harm it gets. We were living in Bangkok for many years, and there was one business family, and their father had gone to Europe for a business trip, and he had cardiac arrest and he passed away. Right? So now these two, one girl and one boy of 18 and 19 years old, they were devastated. Then the priest comes and says, oh, you know, your father is overlooking, and if you're sad, then, you know, he will be so unhappy. So that means there is this sadness which is there, which is, you're told not to express it. Or imagine if I as a Vedanta teacher, start going and say, no, this Atma is the truth of everything, which may be a fact, but is this the right time? No. This is where you have to be intelligent. Vedanta makes you a very discerning and intelligent person. It's not like living in some clouds. Then somebody said that go and meet them because the priests are telling them something and the kids are now not only sad but they are angry. So he said, can you go and speak to them? The minute we entered, I and Surya, we said, we really understand that you are feeling sad. Because if at this occasion, you don't have sadness, then which occasion will make you sad? There is some legitimate reason to make you sad. There is nothing wrong with it. This is your nature's design which enables you to distinguish between different events and different corresponding emotions. When you go for a wedding, you're happy. You're not sad. When you go for a funeral, you are sad. That means your mind is able to emote appropriately. And you are not interfering with this natural process. If you are not interfering with this natural process, does it mean you just let it be what it is? No. So that means the first thing that you have to do is to accept the fact we are taught from childhood. A good girl or a good boy doesn't cry. We are not allowed to show our fears. We are not allowed to show our disappointments. All that I felt as a child had no expression because I felt that my parents had or my teachers had some expectation of me, because to be good was to be like that. So every time I had emotions which were not corresponding to that thing which was accepted by my parents and teachers, what did I do? I suppressed it. Because I wanted to be accepted by the society, by my parents, by my teachers. So that means they are shoved aside, and that shoving aside is what we call, forms the unconscious. Because they are suppressed, do you think, are you eliminating those feelings? No. They are very much there. Then, as you grow up, what happens? Some external situations act as a trigger. And everything that is saved inside comes out. Right? How do you know whether you are operating as a deliberate person or you are acting under the influence of the unconscious? How do you know? There was one nice book which said, every time your reactions are totally disproportionate with reference to a given situation, you know that there is a huge pressure which is held inside, which is all just coming out. Sometimes just as a servant, human beings are like that, they don't serve, and then you abuse them and you're bad and you're like this and you're like that and you get angry, and it's all nothing to do with that poor person. It's all your pressures which have not found proper expression, and it is to this person is just because with relation to that person you are in a position of power. It doesn't come out with everyone. It doesn't come out with your husband, because then you feel that, oh my God, he will not take it. So it comes out with who?
The children or the servants.
Exactly. Who you think, or even in an office situation, right? People will be very nice to the bosses, but to subordinates. Because you have a position of power, and you then, you are free to express those emotions. So that means whole life goes in what? You don't even realize, you don't even reflect and see what is going on. You continue to believe, oh, that person is so bad and that's why I gave it to him.
But sometimes it's necessary when you're working out.
Exactly.
2,500 people are working.
Absolutely.
It doesn't work, it works, the idea is to remain peaceful within. But just do a drama and say, I'm very angry.
Yeah.
Get the job done.
It's true. I think as long as you are deliberate and you know what you are doing and it is well thought of, right? And you can, that's what I said, emotions cannot be eliminated. But you have to learn to manage them. Very important.
No, but the point is making is actually different, but he's not even angry and
Yeah,
saying
he's just
that's different.
That's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
but that's true. I think, yeah, you can, yeah. That's true.
Nowadays, pressures are so much, life is
No, but
to live like that.
sometimes it
Yeah.
should be do as
50%
mother.
do.
Yeah, that. You don't have to really have that, but for their goodness, you have to.
But one thing, we think that we need, of course, that as I said, you can't eliminate. And you can't you know, even to think that I'm never angry, that also is not true. Nobody is never angry. It's not true.
What vice versa does this?
Right? We have, and there's nothing wrong. Right? The only thing is you need to have certain amount of lucidity. Right? Now the first step is to recognize that I am, that the attribution of problem external is something, sometimes it's true, sometimes it is not true. To be able to distinguish when it is really a problem external and when is it which is when I am imposing onto this situation a problem when actually it is not. The ability to distinguish between the two makes you a discerning person. You can't always say it's my projection. You can't always say that the external situation is bringing it. To be able to distinguish. Where is the real source? Because as long as you don't look into your own self, it seems to you always the problem is outside. Then if you are this self-defeating kind of a person, you blame yourself for everything and you think everything is my problem. That is another problem. Everything you take upon yourself and as your limitations. As Viresh said, sometimes you have to be firm, and being firm is not wrong. Then you say, oh my God, I'm not spiritual. You see what I mean? So that means a discerning capacity we don't have. We are all mixed up in our behaviors. Okay? So that means every time there is the person, how did this person become the person who has mastery over emotions? The first step is don't deny your sadness or your happiness. Joy is lovely. Don't deny it. Oh, I'm a spiritual person, I should not be, this is awful. I was in one retreat and somebody was just, I think there was some fragrance of some flower and one woman said, oh, what a beautiful fragrance. And the other one said, oh, you should not get attached to all these. My God. This is what we call pseudo-spirituality. This is what Nanda is funny behaviors, right? The world is meant for you to participate, to contribute, to enjoy everything. Don't deny yourself all of that. Your happiness you cannot deny. The normal sources of happiness also you cannot deny. But the certain amount of sadness, certain situations are going to produce, you cannot deny. Then there is the problem. The problem is that this sadness, if I have not figured out, and if I am in the denial, and I have not even addressed it, and it keeps interfering with my behaviors, and I keep on attributing to outside world, then there is a basic confusion. A mind is a deluded mind. It does not see the reality as it is seen through what? One's own color. So that is something that in everything, a mind which is not well cultivated is colored. It's not seeing things as they are. Okay, so that means the first rule is accept if you are sad or you are happy, accept the fact that you are happy for yourself. Stay sometimes with that feeling instead of trying to brush it away. We are so at times uncomfortable to feel some feelings. So the minute sadness comes, what do you want to do? You want to distract yourself and little bit of dwelling on that emotion of sadness not in a self-defeating way, but where is it coming from? What is going on here? What are the stories that I'm telling myself which are dysfunctional? That is to not get carried away and say, oh, I'm feeling sad and repeating, I'm sad, I'm sad. It's intelligently intervening and looking into that emotion and trying to, if there is a distortion in my understanding of things, what am I doing? Trying to look into it and correct it. A lot of people live with two basic feelings. One is, I'm a victim of circumstances. Some things happen in my childhood or in my lifetime or whatever that are just too traumatic.
Nobody loves me.
Nobody loves me. Lack of love. Very common feelings. That becomes the very basis of your psyche, which is you are not even aware of. But your behaviors come out of that feeling. So there is a disconnect. And then you have to project yourself in a given way because you have to convince yourself that I don't have all of this. Huge problem. Confusion within confusion bears. The wise person has, or it's like, there are two strings which are entangled. I mean, you knot it, and then second knot, the third knot, fourth knot. Then you want to undo the knots. Are you going to be able to undo at once? No. Because it's too entangled. But if you don't address it, what will happen? You will increase the knots. So you have no choice but to undo. But undoing requires some skills. You need to delicately identify the right things and you need to undo. Undo what? Undo your wrong feelings. Your wrong conclusions.
Also, to be able to seek help.
You can see that. Right? When you yourself can't figure it out, because there are too many things going on and you don't have enough clarity as to what is happening, why am I behaving like this, you can ask for help.
But you can't let it walk your own without.
No, you can do something to break it down.
Then it doesn't actually work.
Yeah, so this is why our teacher, most of his time was spent outside Vedanta class in just helping people to figure out their lives. Because everybody has such an entangled life, He was a brilliant person. He was happy without being judgmental. One could not feel, oh my God, if I say all this, how will be, Just that objectivity to help you through that process. So that you can free yourself from those patterns which are dysfunctional patterns of behaviors.
It's Swamiji only said, live life in seek help.
Here when you are listening to Vedanta also, it's not when you go and talk, when you are listening to Vedanta, you are also seeking help.
But when a person is getting entangled in this sort of situation, the victim mode, that nobody loves me, everybody's out to get me, the whole world is my enemy, so on and so forth, and then they overreact and what you were saying. To be able to seek help and get out of that situation is also very difficult because now the perception is not only a perception, it has actually become a reality. So actually all those people who you think hate you and are out to get you now, by now are actually hating you and are actually out to get you. No, it's true.
Yeah, that does happen.
I'm talking about actual experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, not for myself,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
that does happen. And now, maybe an intelligent, wise person would be able to work their way out because there's a certain degree of self-esteem and subtlety and whatever. But somebody who's so damaged, it's a very, very uphill task to downstream to as to why certainly not in the short notice.
And this is why, if you ask me, when will I understand this limitless problem?
No, so
There is
you
no
don't
life.
get out. So I'm saying you don't get out of the cycle ever. If you ask a psychiatrist what is honestly your success rate, it's 0 plus 0.
This is why you need Vedanta, which our teacher says is the ultimate therapy.
My friend used to say,
Because,
sorry, please come.
yeah, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
you-
No.
My friend used to say, really nobody loves you. He said, I asked my wife, I'm going tonight, would you like to join me? So his wife said, you go first. Really nobody would like to join me.
Part of your journey is given.
Leave the checkbook behind. Right, it's taught me that.
Village says that nobody loves me like that. Nobody is helping me to go up. Help yourself.
That's the one.
You know, older days, doctor used to give medicine and he used to put doses here. Nowadays, people take full bottle only. So much emotion. So it's difficult to sort it out.
What are you talking about going on?
Going on to finish already. It was second year. It is so much heavy. People like that constant emotion.
Oh, that.
He needs a dose of medicine.
You know your husband better. What he means, okay?
No, I don't know. He says, come up. I said, no way. Not in that other life also.
She told me that,
This is her last
I said, you go take a haircut
Start okay.
and keep it there and I come back to Delhi and figure out where I go.
So,
But coming back to what Nava said, that that people actually start behaving like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wonder whether it's really they actually, or you have made yourself just so caught up in that.
So when it's very neutral, like when you start in the world, it's a very neutral thing, yeah. If I have my own issues and my own projections, my own angers from elsewhere, my own irritations, I obviously start projecting them on you. To the point where you think I'm cracked or I'm whacked or you ignore me or you misunderstand me, and then you start obviously feeling negatively over a period of time because I'm not going away, I'm still in your face. And you start hating me over a period of time and you start protecting yourself because I'm attacking you in various ways. I'm attacking people you love in various ways, etc. So there is a mutual hatred now, and that's not just towards you, it's from me to everybody in the room, because that's who I am and that's how I am. So the hatred and the dislike is very real, and the actions based on that are very, very real, and they mount up eventually in high calls. So,
what
But
Nava
again,
says
coming to like
showing
Vedanta, when we were talking with Vedanta, like you were saying, you have people. I mean, it's not true that that people are there to get you all the time.
No, but that's how it ends up being after this.
I think what Navas is talking about is initially, exactly.
Yeah,
Initially, your projection,
It's neutral everywhere.
and then your projection influences the way people perceive you, and then that becomes reality about you. Now, even if you change, right? But they are still
Now, even if I've gotten myself in this
Yeah.
whole mess and I'm trying not to change, it's a very, very uphill task for even somebody who's very wise and intelligent and has a good degree of self-esteem and subtlety and discretion and whatever. But for somebody who's that damaged, it's just not possible.
No,
it's too much of
nothing is not possible.
It's possible.
It can happen like this, and suddenly a person
we
just.
don't think about perfection. Just say, what can I do now? The next step.
Namita, you were saying nothing is impossible when you are talking of you with your balance, with your mind, with your sensibility.
You'd be
Now,
surprised.
That person, that awareness doesn't have any of those things. Now, no.
Who are you to say?
You rise above it.
But that person doesn't have it, that's fine, because you're not there to change people.
No.
You change yourself, you'll see everything. And you'll come across those kind of people only.
No, I'm not talking about me in a relationship with somebody like that.
No, I'm talking about people that you're
But
contacting.
They are still in that same relationship with the world at large.
See, one one thing we must all understand that, we create scenarios where we tell ourselves that nothing else will change. This is not true.
Yeah, this is not true.
Right?
But if you
Every small, I showed you Indra's net.
The
Every
possibility
small-
is very much there, but the
Maybe-
probability is not.
But the thing is, you have a choice, right? You have a free will. Either you are going to further entangle or you are going to try to untangle.
Yes.
That choice belongs to you. After that, you've taken the action. There are so many dynamics, right, that take place. And things may not happen as fast as what you expect, but every action which is done in the right direction will produce some result. This is the law of cause and effect. So you have to believe in the universe. You can't just say, oh,
Either you
regardless
can
of
be
what
that
I-
policeman who was napping, or you can be that boy who
Boy,
started pushing.
exactly.
When we carefully analyze the world in the last 100 years, the world is really, the planes, the roads, every dynamic is fantastic. This was not 100 years back. In spite of that, the human being says, I'm not happy.
Yeah.
I'm not. World is good. Scientists have done their job, economists have done their job. But still we do feel that world is giving me the push. World is giving me this. World is improved. I have not improved to understand the world. The basic problem is how to contact the world. Because when you contact the cobra, you know you can't handle the cobra. You know exactly how to handle it. But when you come in contact with the world, there are different cobras, there are lions, there are leopards. How to contact them?
But
It's also technique.
I don't believe that 100 years is long enough time for us to look at. We are very myopic, I think, as human beings. And actually, this is a human condition that has been in existence for forever, I feel. So while we think that things have really improved right now, maybe during the Industrial Revolution, they thought things had really improved back then.
You're absolutely right.
Similarly, in the
I
4th
agree.
century, when they discovered how to make fire, they must have thought, my God, this is the biggest thing in the world.
Like our kids are doing the same way. I mean, exactly.
So I think that interaction is a universal and timeless kind of a space, and these are the only things that can help us.
Absolutely.
So these things have been timeless.
They have been timeless.
So that's the reason why this has been timeless.
So it
Right.
was
It's going on, it's cyclical, but this has remained timeless.
Right.
When it comes to the same thing like Faye was saying, you just do your thing and slowly it goes into place. Because you can't control the outside.
No, totally, but I'm not talking about my situation.
I
I'm
know,
talking about somebody
I know,
who
but-
they were trying to talk about. But to counter my own argument and to play my own devil's advocate, it's like saying, I think somebody or whatever is trying to say, and correctly, that, as they say, every saint has a past and every sinner has a future. So yeah, I think every soul kind of travels everywhere. We'll assume every role of everything. But I'm talking about the balance of probabilities.
That's true, and that's why you see the result, you may not see them as fast as you would expect. And this is why if somebody asks this question, when will I understand Vedanta?
I call it granite situation.
So-
Marble is very soft. But somebody's mind is that granite, you put the bomb, plus nothing. Sorry,
It really depends upon how prepared are you.
So.
And how much effort are you going to make to prepare yourself? Because each one of us can come here and attend this 3-day retreat. But after this retreat, as Viresh was asking, there will be some people who will be highly impacted by it. They'll be careful when they make decisions and when they have to deal with emotion. Some people will just continue with their own habitual, So that means it's a function of your own efforts. That Yoga Shastra, please understand, Brahma Vidya is Vastu Tantra. You just have to understand what is. Yoga Shastra is Purusha Tantra. Your growth, your Purushartha. Your growth, how much are you, what integrity do you have to look into yourself? How much are you able to detect some distortions, some dysfunctional behaviors? How much are you going to be able to, you stay with it and correct it and put it in line. Align it with the laws. All this is all Purushartha based.
What is that?
Purushartha means your own effort.
So that's all we should be concerned concerned with
Yeah.
right now, and the rest of it
There is
comes
no
out
both.
difficult.
We need to know.
Knowing about the Lord is important, and then alignment.
Yeah, but see, the whole, you can't say,
You
let
know
me
it, and
first,
therefore you.
one minute, sure. You can't say, let me first, get this whole part organized, and only then I will listen to Brahma
Works
Vidya.
in
Because
conjunction.
exactly. Brahma Vidya is going to give you a very big picture which looks at yourself so differently than this little individual that you thought you were. If you want to continue to be in the same paradigm of a little individual, you highly limit yourself, and then your interactions are meant to free yourself. And you'll never be able to really become mature. So that means you need to equip yourself with both. One is the absolute truth, the other one is these distortions which are existing in your mind, and working on them and making your mind ready for the knowledge. Both are equally important. You can't have one without the other.
It's two legs of one.
I see this in the work that we do in the prisons. Most people are really down.
Yes.
Their thinking is really distorted.
Very.
Right? So we are there, not that you're wise people, at least you have some little bit of common sense, and share this knowledge that we have with them. And over time you can see that they realize this weakness in them, and they make changes. They do. And we always tell them, they're not here to advise you, force you, or you do your own decision making. The choice is yours.
Can she talk to us a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Tonight we can talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more, because I'm just wondering what makes that damaged person really make that transition. Where do you reach? Like if you're in prison, if you've been a criminal, at what point do you sort of, start wanting to?
We will talk. She will talk. She will talk this evening.
Either at lunch or maybe after dinner, where
Yeah,
can she
after
talk to
dinner,
us?
yes,
Yeah,
for sure.
Maybe that-
Sure.
And then they understand. That's all.
So any problem you see after 24 or 6 months, you laugh about why was so much. That's nothing.
But either that problem becomes manifold more because you've not addressed it, or you laugh about it when you solve it.
But I'm telling you, when I went to Dubai, and if somebody is only bring $10, everything is mine. I would sign a contract. There's a knowledge there. But be careful, analyze my life. I never do that. So if you're afraid, I'm pushed out.
Exactly. So that's why Purushartha is required. Things don't just happen automatically. Don't expect things to just happen automatically. This is the problem that people have, because they think that by listening to this Brahma Vidya, everything will solve automatically. It doesn't. Yeah, because see, there are so many things which have made your particular orientation what it is. Now, if you want to make it more objective, it takes time.
But these efforts are only what we're teaching us in
Exactly.
dynamic action.
So this is-
Cumulative action towards the goal you put.
So now, this person, let's come back to this person, right? So this person has worked on what? The sadness and the happiness. Look, instead of ignoring the sadness, what has that person done? First, accepted it, looked into the causes of that sadness. If there are distortions in thinking, then one has corrected those distortions in thinking. And as a result of change in thinking, the person has then behaved differently, reinforced that change in understanding with actions. All this is your Purushartha. Entire step. All these 4 or 5 steps you have to do. There is no shortcut.
Can you repeat the steps?
Okay. First, you have to accept and acknowledge that feeling without trying to shove it aside. The second thing is stay with it and try to understand. Where is it coming from? What are the assumptions? Then, where you see distortion, what do? You correct, you bring in the right understanding to neutralize that distorted understanding. That is the third step. And the fourth step is that new understanding has to translate in different behavior. Reinforce it with actions.
Your reaction is different.
Your actions, not reaction. In fact, you will not be in a reactive mode, you will be in an active mode, deliberate actions. These 4 steps you cannot bypass. No amount of Vedanta will work for you if you have not addressed all these things.
Yes. You have a solution to that? No, really. What you require is
What you require is this. Right? Now, happy. Now here, okay, we've addressed, I have to move because I need to finish 18 verses.
Yeah, just getting
Right?
So
So now,
stop us.
yeah. The second thing is, I just need to highlight a few points that you must know. Right? Why it says, okay, now that person has handled the sadness and made the mind objective. Ultimately, what does the person understand? The awareness is untouched by anything that goes on. But that's a real knowledge. It's not like a lip service. If these steps are not done, it becomes a mechanical awareness is free, it hasn't touched us. So the final understanding of that wise person is preparing the mind through these 4 steps. He understands that awareness was actually never touched by any of the emotions.
This is the key.
That is it. Right? So that means that the preparation is done, it's not ignored, and the final reality of Atma is also understood. That's what makes you a wise person. Both. Now, happiness. Why do you think that you only need to deal with your sadness? Why do you need to deal with your happiness?
Because you know it will be short-lived, so you might as well understand that.
Okay, wonderful. Right? Sometimes the experiences of happiness, even though they are so welcome by everyone, they pose a problem. Why do they pose a problem? Sorry? Yeah. As she says, something which is by nature temporary, if you think that it is permanent, what happens?
Disappointment.
You fear the ego.
So that means there are always distortions in your thinking.
You try to perpetuate.
And when you try to perpetuate something which is not possible, you lose that ability to discern. At any cost, I will. And then you do all kinds of things. Right? So that's why happiness is something that you're not actively, please understand, you're not actively denying it. That is not wisdom. Right? But there is almost like an addiction which then you engage and you try to make something permanent which by nature is transitory. And you are in a losing game. And in the process, sometimes when you have happiness, and which is a result of some punya that you have, right, and such as comforts and such as luxuries, where is the danger?
You can
The
attach.
danger is attached is, what does attachment do?
You want it all the time.
Yeah, so that's what I explained, right? That you something which is transcendental, you can't live without it, then your whole effort and whole time, then every time you're upset, because every time that very high standard doesn't meet. So that means most of the time you are like wanting. The second thing is very important is, let's say you have had a successful life. What is the flip side of that? At times you can become arrogant.
Sorry, you're done.
At times you can become arrogant.
If you had happiness all the time, if you had success all the time, yeah.
Right? The minute you become arrogant, what is your basis of interaction with others?
Superiority.
Superiority. The minute you say I'm superior, everybody else is what? Inferior. Imagine, does anybody like to interact with a person where the person somehow picks up that exactly made to feel small? Nobody wants to interact with the person where you feel small. How much cooperation are you going to get from people if you constantly make them feel small? And you need people to accomplish things. The webs, Indra's net. Every success that you have had, countless people have worked for it. And they have exactly contributed to this success. You attribute that whole success onto yourself and start looking down on everyone else who has contributed to your success. You are digging your own grave. Because you will not have cooperation of all these people if you look down upon them. They will not be happy. The very network which led you to reach that height, you are actually using your own free will, cutting that net. Cutting the connections. So that means living a life which is enlightened life. You know, sometimes success is beautiful, but it becomes the very cause for your downfall. If you don't know how to handle it properly.
There was one small story example which I did to my children also.
Yeah.
There is I told them that anything you play in a life game, it becomes boring if you are always winner.
If you are
Always winner. Okay. Like I am playing a game with a 10-year-old child. If I ball 6 balls, win. And he is clean bowled all 6 balls. So he will put the racket down. Ready now, go back. I will ball. Because he wants to, he is loser. So he balls and I put all the 6 balls as a sixer. He said, I know, it's a boring game. You are always winner. You are superior. So I want to go. You will leave the bat, ball and go. Life becomes very boring then. It's basically just understanding that every time, I like to say that every time you are a winner, somebody has to be balancing the life. You cannot win every time.
But you know, this is really weird, but I have weird thoughts and analogies. But it's like I've always thought that, you know, about some such people who may be arrogant or whatever, that thank God, God gave us all bad breath and body odor and the fact that we have to defecate every day, etc. I mean, we all need to remember we're human, you know, and there's no getting away from some things. Keep us grounded.
But unfortunately, we don't pay attention to all, you know, exactly. So that means that the whole maturity is about really looking at the reality of ourselves objectively. Wonderful. This is a good way to remind yourself, hey, be grounded, you know. So, this is what we say, even happiness has to be put in perspective, because if it is not, if you add distortions, it will lead to your downfall. Okay. Then, here he says, Vita Raga Bhaya Krodha. The person has not only dealt with happiness and sadness, the person has dealt with fears, anger. Right? So how does one deal with fears and anger? Okay. The fear, you need to know that again, just like every other emotion, you cannot eliminate fear. Right? So therefore, you need to divide fear into two categories. The first set of fear is what we call instinctual fears. You are given that fear for self-preservation. I went to school in New York, and I used to walk late at night. I used to walk home. And at times you see all these big guys walking on the street. And what do? You need to cross the street. You need to be fast. Right? That is it gives you some fear for self-preservation. Imagine if I had studied Vedanta, everything is one, everything, I'm Satya and all. And if I don't act, what happens? I'm foolish. Right? So the instinctual fear is something which is part of sanity. But what is that fear that Vedanta talks about, a wise person has addressed? That is what we call psychological fears. Right? That the fear is not created by some external event which calls for certain fear. It is created by my own huge picture that I have created in my mind. So that means it is a function of my thought processes have made me build a picture which doesn't exist outside. And I don't even realize that. I think that these fears are what? Fear real, because there are real dangers. That is what we call distortion.
Fear stands for false evidence appearing real.
Right? So that means that picture that I have created, again I need to look into it. See, the whole pursuit is cognitive. The whole Vedanta pursuit is cognitive. Because everything that you do is all mixed up here. This is the only problem. So unmixing up all has to happen here. Right? You need to, again, we are all very intelligent. It's just the matter of staying with that fear and asking yourself, what are the assumptions that I make? So I had, just to give you an example, that during this 2008-2009 crisis, so one of my friends was saying that, you know, she went for a party, and in the party there were like lots of people and all this business corporate people. And all the wives were talking about, you know, because there was a big danger, and nobody knew what impact it would have on their companies, their operations and all. So all these women were talking about, you know, what if they suffer losses and they can't, you know, they can't go on holidays and they can't do this and they can't do that. So that means their whole mind was preoccupied with a kind of a scenario which was not, they didn't even know whether it was true or not. If, right? But that if seems like real. And you already start imagining yourself as deprived.
And the movie just goes on and on.
Exactly. And the movie just goes on and on. And it becomes big.
How do you control this?
Just, in fact, it all stays till the time you look into it.
But it keeps coming back.
It's okay. Every time it comes, you begin to ask very gently, what is the, exactly as you described, what is the evidence experience that I had, that this will happen.
Really happened.
I even plan to build this recession.
Exactly, that's true. And already there are managers who are working, right, to find ways, constructively find ways in meeting this, avoiding this downfall. So you're sitting in a cocktail party and worrying about, are you adding anything to the solution?
No, but they make it up so much.
Exactly. You're not doing anything proactive. You're not doing anything constructive. You're not even participating in the process, but you're...
And also for those people, the food and traveling, for that was multiple, I tell you, still superimpose.
Absolutely. That's the thing. So that means the superimposition power of your mind is so much. It makes you suffer for so many things.
Well, I'll tell you the secret. Those rich people curtail their wife. I'm sorry to say, because I keep in check my wife. So I just keep projecting this big picture. This is what I have. Check on it.
Oh, just say
I'm saying.
And those
No, I and Faye, we both sit down together, we worked out a strategy. We didn't have an issue.
Excuse me, don't involve me. Your scenario is very
We will take the question answer section in the evening. I'll give you all a secret how to beat the session.
No, we don't want to know. We all want to do it through Vedanta.
But then there are husbands who do exactly the opposite. They try and make it out, I'm so and they're actually not.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess they're all
Really there, nobody really.
my husband says, since we're talking about husbands, my husband says that it's never the bullet that you need to be worried about. It's only the fear of the bullet that you need to fear. Because all the time, oh my God, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen.
Exactly.
But when the bullet actually goes off, you're dead. You don't know any better. You're gone. It's over.
True.
Yeah.
This is true.
But you take proactive measures.
Sorry. You have to take proactive measures to anticipate and do some things, but otherwise there are so many fears which are ungrounded.
And you can replace the fear with a happy thought. When you get fearful,
Yeah.
can you just replace your thought with something else?
See, this is a problem. See, this is a problem. Preeti is asking this question. This is a normal technique that people subscribe. When the fear comes, replace it with something positive. Okay? That means that fear will continue to
Come again.
exactly continue to rule you. This is what we have learned from childhood, as I told you. Fear comes, it's not acceptable, shove it away, under the carpet, do something good, appear nice.
Yeah,
This is a
that's
problem.
it.
And we continue to do, even under this so-called positive thinking and all, you just think well and everything else will be solved. No.
Cause is not true.
Exactly. The root cause only goes when you address it. Otherwise, it's going to evidence. So that means you tell yourself, what behind this fear, what are all the assumptions? Stay with it. Look into those assumptions and see which one is valid, which one is your own creation.
How much this root cause is because of the previous birth sanskar?
Yeah, true. Even one, okay, so that's a very good thing, right? The previous cause is, there are two methods of doing it, right? When you look for cause, either you can say, oh, as a child I felt like this and carry it forward, okay? So then you trace it back to the childhood. Sometimes you can do it. But as he says, so many things are not just traceable only from the childhood, but from so many past lives. So where are you going to trace everything? So this is why you need not worry about the past right now. If I feel persecuted, ask myself, don't think about the childhood, how I felt and all. Why am I feeling persecuted? What are the assumptions? Don't worry about the past. The minute you begin to look into it, do these 4 steps. Stay with it, look into it, understand where are the distortions, and correct those distortions and act based on your new understanding. There is no other shortcut. So therefore, every emotion of yours has to be, otherwise what is the biggest problem in Vedanta? I will tell you what is the biggest problem in people not understanding Vedanta. The biggest problem is the minute you say awareness is free from every emotion, they try to bypass that emotional life by saying, oh, awareness is already free. True. Awareness is already free, but for you to comprehend and to live with that freedom, you need to address what? Emotions. Your emotions. You can't bypass your emotional life. So this is why Yoga Shastra becomes a very important foundation on which Vedanta, the Brahma Vidya, stands. Without that foundation of an objective mind, which has dealt with sadness, fears, anger, there is no foundation. It's just some floating idea, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. It has no roots. It has no reality. So in order for Vedanta to be real and well-grounded, in order for you to live that vision, you need to do both. You need to address your fears, your anger, your sadness, even your distortions when you are happy. These are all the things which need to be done first, or together, in conjunction. To get really the essence of Vedanta.
Could you also communicate what you want? Would that also be happening in the same way, or that's
So that is also here
Comes
Vidya
later.
Raga. No, it is in this word, right? The greed. The greed that you need to look into, the greed has what, the assumption behind the greed is what?
A sense of lack.
A sense of lack. A sense of lack comes from where?
Actually from yourself.
From yourself, because you have concluded I'm only this much. Right? And then, if you are only this much, nobody can stand smallness. Then what do you want to do? You want to acquire as much as possible to make yourself feel big. And that's what many people do.
Also feel secure.
Exactly.
False notion of
wrong.
Exactly. Right? And then, exactly, so sometimes even if you don't have, even if you lack, you project what? A very confident person. So that means you multiply your distortions.
Even beyond your means.
You can live beyond your means. We do so many things, which are all distortions within distortions within distortions. Right? So now, this is where this whole vision, the fact that I am not this individual, I am the whole, that Brahma Vidya, where it is addressing my basic assumption about who I am, it helps. So you see how each one helps the other. The Brahma Vidya helps my Yoga Shastra. The Yoga Shastra helps my Brahma Vidya. You start a very virtuous cycle. Both work hand in hand.
Seeing this here, it seems will it be similar points?
Yes, exactly. See, the greed that we have is from the lack. If you correct that whole notion, then in fact, one has to draw a line, right? So we go from one extreme to the other. One is greed, means you just want to acquire everything and you want to, constantly to be rolling in luxury. And I mean, it's just no end to all of that. The other thing is, oh, I have to be simple if I'm spiritual. We go from one extreme to the other. I'm guilty, I'm feeling guilty because thousands of people are starving and I'm staying in a 5-star hotel. You don't need to carry the whole burden of the world on your shoulder. You are given resources for a reason. Use them well on yourself and if you have some extra on the others. Properly.
Or then don't stay in a 5-star hotel and give it to others and don't talk about it.
Exactly. See, the thing is, absolutely. So that means we make ourselves helpless. We say things which may sound right, but it's all superficial. Here you have to become a real person. You have to mean what you say.
How to draw a line between greed and the content?
Exactly. The greed comes from this whole thing that this smallness. Contentment comes from the fact that I am the whole. I am the whole, but I am connected to this body and mind. And through this body and mind, I can express myself. But that expression need not be of that of deprivation. I need not deprive myself of things. But I have to have a proper perspective.
Ultimately, it is freedom.
So that means Vedanta makes you really the same person because it brings both. So all these things which rest in the emotion, you can't just say emotions are not I and therefore I bypass my emotions. You need to address that. And the wise person, in order to become wise, has done it. Right? So the next description we will see in the next class. Yeah,